Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the All Four Downs podcast with Four Downs, 3counts.com. That's right. You check out the website at 4downs3counts.com for our latest blogs and also catching up to our latest podcast. I'm Obi-Wan, and today's episode, no stranger to all this. It is the college football that's going to be happening in the next 2 days. That's right. Thursday and Friday. It's coming strong. And the focus, well, who is really going to be the next national champion? But before we know that, we need to know who's going to win in the semifinals. I'm going to talk about that even more. But here, college football, it never sleeps. And this season has been a blink because, wow, all of a sudden, we're into who's in the rankings and now the playoffs are here and teams have been eliminated and the teams that we thought were going to be there are not there. So we're definitely going to see and witness new champion this year. So, but with all the chaos and then the committee controversy leading into the playoffs, the coaches firing and hiring, the transfer portal, and players that are just going to enter the NFL draft, there's just so much that's going on and so much spotlights. But let me remind you, all that could be done, but the real focus here is the playoffs. So this week on All Four Downs, I'm gonna break down the semifinals matchup between Ole Miss taking on Miami, Oregon running it back against Indiana, and why these games tell us more about the state of college football than any rankings ever could. I'm also going to be talking about the hard look at the college football playoff committee, the teams left out, the teams that maybe should have been in, and whatever was better, fair for the playoff format. It could look so many ways, but truly, I have a suggestion that will crown the best team, not just the best brand, but the best team. And from a broken timeline to a proposed reset, from upset picks to uncomfortable truth, this is college football and all four downs with no filter whatsoever. We are tuning in, baby. We are. Uh, no, we're passing on the quarterfinals to the semifinals, but let's take a look here in first down. Ole Miss versus Miami. That is a spot that's going to happen tomorrow on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on ESPN. Number 6, Ole Miss taking on number 10, Miami. Now, with all that is said and done, it's surprising that Miami is there. I am total shocked. Okay. I don't think there's anyone that could say, besides if you're a Miami Hurricane fan, that Miami was going to make it to the semifinals. After the way they ended their season, after that switcheroo from the committee, switching Miami and Notre Dame, all of a sudden, there's a lot of questions there. But hey, Miami's in. They took care of business, right? And Ole Miss was taking care of theirs. So Thursday night definitely will be kicking things off with the semifinals. Ole Miss earned their way here in the hard way, knocking out Tulane and Georgia. Okay, all right, scratch that. Maybe it wasn't so hard against Tulane, but it was definitely a battle between Ole Miss and Georgia. Was the game of the week because all the other games that happened, it wasn't even competitive. But if you wanted the action, if you wanted to go down to the wire on all the excitement, I mean, with all the penalties and the blown whistles and recapping footage and everything else that happened towards the end of that game, Ole Miss and Georgia was in fact the game to watch. And I hope that we get more games just like that. Okay. But the win over Georgia told me that this team isn't just flashing anymore. They are disciplined and it does matter, especially when they don't have their head coach, Lane Kiffin, who went on to now become the new head coach of LSU. And this is good. But can they maintain? Can they maintain this leading into this game? Because on the other side, Miami has been living dangerously and thriving. Okay. Thanks to the college football committee switching around Miami and Notre Dame, they upset Texas A&M, which, by the way, was probably the most boring game in college football. All right, the college football playoffs. It was. And there was nothing exciting. I don't care how much hype you could put in there, but both Miami and Texas A&M, They did not bring it. However, Miami did bring it on against Ohio State, and they showed me that they can handle physicality and pressure. This isn't just, let me tell you, this isn't just Miami, all right, that folds late. This is a team that believes in the moment that that belongs to them, really. And more focus on is the quarterback, Carson Beck. Okay. As you remember last year, he was in the playoffs, but he was with the Georgia Bulldogs and he got injured. And on top of that, Carson Beck throughout the season was having really difficulties with the wide receivers because they couldn't catch the ball. Now he's in a team, the receivers trust him, the team trusts him. And even though they really do not have to rely on Carson Beck, they have a running game, they have an offense, and it's clicking at the right time. I couldn't say that towards the end of the regular season because it felt like Miami just was slipping down the month of December. In the month of November. Okay. Losing to two non top 25 teams, and things were just questionable. And yes, Miami did beat Notre Dame in week one, and every game should count, right? But now we're at a point is this the true Miami Hurricanes? Is this the true identity that we're supposed to see throughout the whole entire season? Ole Miss has always been great. Ole Miss is better than last year. But is Ole Miss better with Lane Kiffin as the head coach? Or was Lane Kiffin just right in the seat? This is the game that's going to capture to see whether or not Lane Kiffin is much needed, or you know what? These offensive and defensive coordinators they had it going on, right? They did good. So it is what it is when it comes to this. Ole Miss, Miami, January 8th, which is tomorrow, Thursday, and it is going to be fantastic. I'm excited to watch this game. My prediction of the game will come down on fourth down, which brings to me for Friday's game, January 9th, between Oregon versus Indiana, a rematch that still has unfinished business written all over it. Back in October 11th, Indiana went on and defeated Oregon at Oregon and walked away with the win 30-20. That wasn't luck. That was preparation. That was determination. And for Indiana, they had to make a statement that they were for real. And they pushed Oregon to the side. And the only conversation throughout the whole entire season was, can they beat Ohio State? Which they did on the Big Ten championship. And look where Ohio State is at now. They're at home watching this game. Yes, they're at home tuning in to see the winner between Oregon and Indiana. But did they learn their lesson? Are they now the complete team? Can they hang and can they commit and upset Indiana? Yeah. So another shot. And besides, this is another opportunity for Indiana to make a statement, right? Because their head coach, he's determined. He says, well, I have champions. And when 2 years to be in this position, that's a lot. Okay. So I'm looking forward to this. I can't wait. And it's going down the next 2 days. Is just going down. Let's move on to second down, because this one here, I'm getting to the meaty part here. I really am. And I'm just talking about the committee, the controversies, and a better way of how to handle this. I think the college football committee has a small part on all this. We still should need the rankings. We still do. But what if I tell you, okay, that the college football playoff committee got this wrong in many eyes? Because let's be serious. Teams like Tulane and James Madison being involved, while the programs such as Notre Dame and Vanderbilt were left out watching from home. That frustration opens the door for real conversations. And this has been, okay? And I'm explaining to you what I have on my screen, because this is it's the upper half of the Big Ten conference standings, okay? And I'm gonna tell you why. What if the college football borrowed the page from the NCAA basketball Sweet 16, but limited to its powerhouse conferences with structure and accountability. Now, before you make judgment, I want you to hear me out real quick. Okay. And I'm going to start off with the Big Ten Conference. Or should I tell you? Well, yeah, I'm going to start with them. But what if I tell you that if you only look at the powerhouse conferences, the top 4 teams of the powerhouse conference will make it to the college football playoffs? Eliminating the conference championship. You got to eliminate that. Okay. Eliminating the conference championship and dive into the playoffs, which, by the way, if they're in first place with the set of tiebreakers or whatever the case may be, you know what? We don't even need tiebreakers. We could just say this. In the Big Ten Conference, Indiana and Ohio State shared the Big Ten Conference championship. They're both co-champions. They did it before in college football way back in the days, trying to figure out when it was just AP polls, right? They got co-champions. But what if that was to be the issue? I mean, not the issue, determine that this is how it's going to be. Then all of a sudden you got Indiana, Ohio State, Oregon, and USC. I think that's good to put just 4 of those teams because USC will owe a tiebreaker against Michigan, right? You got the top 4 teams moving on. And if there was, by some reason, a tiebreaker all the way through, then you got the college football committee to be like, well, we have USC ranking Michigan, so USC will go. That'll be a great tiebreaker. And of course, yeah, everyone can have a conversation about it and a debate, but there's always going to be a debate. But you know what's not going to be? Identifying who's the top 4. Moving on to the SEC. Ole Miss, Georgia, Texas A&M, and Alabama. Yeah, I think so. However, if I'm not mistaken, well, you know what? No, I'm not mistaken because, there's 7-1 records. So 7-1, they should be in. And I know that Oklahoma is in there somewhere, right? Duly noted, but they're 6-2. So Texas, Oklahoma want to be able to make it to the playoffs. Sounds good to me. We don't have to have it. And look at that. Oklahoma's ranked number 8, right? But they're 6-2 in their conference. Then all of a sudden things are starting to make sense. Okay. Yeah, I understand Oklahoma's 10-3, right? They got 3 losses, but in the conference, they weren't the best team in that conference. You got to be the best team in your conference. Look at the Big 12. Texas Tech, BYU. If you eliminate the Big 12 Conference Championship, then Texas Tech and BYU will share the title. Then you got Utah. And then what's the tiebreaker between Houston, Arizona, and Arizona State? That's a good question, right? Maybe Arizona gets in because they're ranked number 17. And not talking about the head-to-head, but I know Arizona's record is 9-4 and Houston's 10-3, but that's besides the point, though. Okay? But you recognizing the top 4 teams in the conference. And look at the ACC. Then, watch this. You ready? ACC still going to have to figure out who is the number 2 team because apparently Duke got themselves into the ACC championship to face Virginia, and then Duke end up winning. That's crazy, right? But if you take a look at this, Virginia in, who else will be in the ACC? And scratching your head, it could be any of the 3 that are 6-2. But we have to recognize how you make the tiebreaker. Okay. Yes, Miami will be in there, but could Georgia Tech be there? No, because Pittsburgh won. They beat Georgia Tech. So this is like a lot of things going on here. All right. But hey, I'm liking this. It's starting to make sense to me. I hope it's making sense to you. All right. And then take the top 16 teams. But wait, there's more. Because out of the top 16 teams, right, 4 in each, If there's any team that is worthy enough to have a better record and they defeated them, then you take them out and add them in there. So again, 16 teams ranked by the committee and the order of merit between 1 through 16, right? And then here's the twist. If a team outside the powerhouse conference earns it on the field, they can replace a top 4 conference team. That's exactly where I put Notre Dame steps in and I'll take out Pittsburgh after beating them 37-15 head to head because the results do matter. Period. Now you got yourself a top 16 teams. And then you also look at the other conferences, right? The Sun Belt Conference, which, by the way, didn't play anybody. Looking at their schedule, you can look at the Pac-12. Oh, by the way, Pac-12, the 2 teams, garbage, right? Look at the American Conference. You can look at the Midwest or the Mid-Atlantic, whatever you want to look at to see if any of those teams were able to beat whoever's the top 16 teams here. And can they match them? That's why results do matter. Now we talk about head to head. I think this is fascinating, having Indiana number 1, Ohio State number 2, opposite sides, right? And then and on and on and on. But watch this. If it was to play out the way it's supposed to play out, then we will have like Indiana versus Miami in the quarterfinals. We will still have Ole Miss and Georgia in the quarterfinals. And then in the semifinals, we have Indiana and Oregon, which, by the way, that's what's happening right now, right? And then in the national championship, what if we do see Indiana versus Ole Miss? Not saying that's going to happen, but again, 16 teams do make a difference here and makes a huge difference. And now, like I said, I just slapped this on here, but there is a difference on all this, right? It makes the competition a lot better than what they have been doing in the last 2 seasons when they expanded to 12 teams. Last year, it was a trial by error. This time, it was scratching my head as to how are they making these decisions. And I do blame not only just the college football committee, but also the AP and the coaches poll because they got it all wrong. We're talking about them picking Penn State to be the second best team in the nation, and they fell hard. There's a few teams that were in the top 10. They're no longer in the top 10, yet alone, they're not even ranked in the top 25. And it's confusing because we're using as, oh, well, they beat a certain amount of teams in the top 25 here and there. And the strength of schedule and everything else, I think is garbage. I don't think any team has a hard schedule than the SEC alone because all they do is beat each other up. And then it eliminates the Big Ten because the conversation is the Big Ten is now the best conference of college football. I happen to disagree. I'd rather have a conversation who's the best conference in this bracket. They're afraid of scheduling great games in the regular season. Well, there you have it right here. Let's do it now. And that's not all. No. With this, there are no bye weeks. All teams will play equal amount of playing time, right? The best conference will be determined, and there will definitely be a true national champion. That is the goal. Let's move on to third down, because now let's add on the timelines and everything else into this, right? For the 2026-27, this is my proposal, okay? Over 26 head coaches have been fired during the season. Players are opting out. Transfer portals is a chaos. Entire locker rooms changing mid-season. At some point, the football itself becomes a background noise. And you've heard it. Those of you that pay attention to the morning shows and everything else, or the pregame, you hear these announcers talking about how they should change the schedule. The schedule it's interrupting. The firings are interrupting everything. Players, I mean, we don't see that in the NFL. Why are we doing it here? Unless they're proposing a trade. But why are we doing that? Okay. So again, proposing a transfer portal when it opens, when to hire and fire coaches, right? There's a lot. So here's what I have in my screen right now. Okay. And you tell me if you agree or disagree. And I start off with this right here. For the 26-27 season, I'm gonna tell you that it should start August 22nd. And I filter in because of the fact that each college football team has at least two bye weeks. Okay. August 22nd is week 0. August 29 is week 1. I'm not a fan of week 0, but they got that number there for a reason. All right. And then you move it on down. However, September 11th and 12th, which by the way, of this upcoming new season, it just happened that we're celebrating the 9/11, honoring those affected by the 9/11, right? So why not propose a bowl games during week 2? Eliminate the bowl games at the end of the season and put them in the beginning, because these conferences own bowls, right? They own bowl games and everything else. So why not keep it real? Let's start selecting teams and go ahead and play them. Now, all of a sudden, we got a real games that we're going to be watching. Okay. And yeah, it might not be perfect, but those are quality teams. Those are brand teams that are playing in those bowl games. And then let's move. Let's continue to move on here. You still play your regular season. All those bowl games count as wins and losses, like always, right? All the way till we get to November 28th. And that is the last regular season games, which let's reserve that for the rivalry games. That's good for business. Besides Thanksgiving weekend, love me some rivalry games. And it doesn't have to be just the 28th. We got the 27th, the 28th. And I know we got the NFL that's in there that owns Thursday, 3 games on Thursday for Turkey Day. And then you got the weekends, the Monday night games. I got that, right? But then also, November 29th is the College Football Committee final rankings. We don't have to wait till conference championship because we just eliminate that. We don't need it anymore. And then after the announcement, give these guys another week, and then everyone starts the playoffs December 10th, which is the second week of December. And every week after that, reserve 2 days. For example, the 10th and 11th, you have the first round, the 17, 18, the quarterfinals, and then Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, we got the semifinals. And then 1 week off until January 4th when we have a national championship game. And then after that, here's the most effective timeline of them all. At January 5th, fire or hire coaches. You got all that time. And then on the 8th of January, 3 days afterwards, then you start your transfer portal. And you got 30 days from January 8th to make all your necessary movements that you need in preparation for the following football season. I think that is great. I think it's fabulous. I think it makes sense. I don't know about you, but I do believe that this right here is a perfect schedule. But if it makes sense, if it has common sense, because I'm not making billions of dollars, and then their excuses is that, oh, well, the media or TV rights and everything else, logistics or whatever the case may be, I'm gonna throw it out the window, man. You guys make billions of dollars every year. Y'all can make this change and make it happen. Bottom line. Let's move on to 4th down. And now it's time for my picks. Thursday, January 8th, Miami versus Ole Miss. It's the college football semifinals, the Fiesta Bowl. Oh, yeah. State Farm Stadium in Arizona, which, by the way, if it was the playoffs that I proposed, every team has a home game except for the national championship, excuse me. So this game would have been in Ole Miss. Home field advantage. Why not? Besides, that'll make some more money. Oh, well, ticket prices go up, whatever. Okay. But, anyways, moving on. Miami versus Ole Miss. Who should win this game? This is a hard one. And believe it or not, Ole Miss owns this series 2-1. The last time they was played was October 26, 1951. Ooh, wow. That was a long time ago. Yeah, Miami won that game. Yep. And but things are different here because the fact that Carson Beck is back on the platform, he is ready. I think he's ready. Absolutely. But Ole Miss, they good too. I mean, you saw that game against Georgia, but will it be enough? Will it be enough? This is a hard one. But I do predict, and it's crazy. I am choosing the points. I'm taking the plus 3.5 in favor of Ole Miss. Yeah, I am. I do believe that somehow, some way, that the Miami Hurricanes will pull it off at the end of the game. A kickoff. I mean, not a kickoff. A field goal to win by a solid 3 points to beat Ole Miss to move to the national championship. All their games have been a lot of drama, except for the last one. But if we have a game that's defensive, even though I know that these two teams are going to score some points in this game, I do believe that there's going to be an opportunity that Miami will pull it off by a field goal. And it's safe bet. I don't think that these points that's coming up, 52.5, I'll stay under. I don't think it's going to increase over 52.5. I don't. So my win, straight up. I've been debating all this. I've been changing my mind, so I'm going to make this official. I am taking Miami to win this game. They're moving on to the national championship. And on Friday, January 9th, Oregon versus Indiana. This is a rematch. This is a Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And this is going to be in Atlanta, Georgia. Yeah, Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Indiana's favorite 3.5. Well, the points are 48.5. I'm actually going to take the slightly over in this game. I am going to take the over 40.5. But I'm also picking Indiana to win and head to the national championship to face Miami. Yep. That is my pick. And with that, this is going to be the first time in college football history that despite Indiana going to the national championship against Miami, but the national championship is in Miami. Go figure, huh? Wow. This is all 4 downs. You can tune into our website, 4downs3counts.com. And this is the bracket. Once again, Oregon versus Indiana, Ole Miss versus Miami. It's happening the next 2 days to determine who's going to the national championship. So let's see what happens there. My pick, Indiana versus Miami in the national championship. And well, my picks on that game, well, definitely I will tune in next week to see who's going to win on that. But for now, that's my safe bet right now. Oh yeah, I'm loving it. I'm loving it. But anyways, I am now going ahead and close this show up. That's right. And this is my final whistle here. College football doesn't need more games. It needs better timing, clearer standards, and accountability. The talent is there. The passion is there. Now the structure needs to catch up. If the playoffs is truly about the best teams, then results, timing, and fairness have to matter more than the branding. That's the bottom line. And that is it for me here on All 4 Downs. So you can lock it, you could debate it, and you can break it down all you want. But next week, I'll be here talking about the national championship game and everything else. And also this week, All 4 Downs will be returning with Hector V as we break down the playoffs and make our predictions of what's going to happen in the wild card this weekend. Everything still matters. You got to love it, man. You got to love it. But what is your take? Is my proposal good enough for you? Is my prediction awesome? Hey, let me know. Leave your comments. Go ahead and subscribe to All Four Downs podcast. I'm Obi-Wan. Thank you for listening. Gotta love some football, huh? Oh, yeah. Take care, everyone. Happy New Year.